Federal Reserve, monetary policy. Now, the challenge with this is it's the most boring subject in the world, or one of the most boring. It's not 50 Shades of Grey. It's not horny housewives from North Dakota or going naked in the jungle or anything like that. It is not an inherently exciting topic. So let me, just as a reward, before I get into this thing for a couple of minutes, just as a reward, I'll give you a travel tip. A lot of you are going to be getting on planes. If you find yourself in an airplane, in coach, middle seat, on the runway, watching your life pass away, you want a little bit of elbow room with your seatmates, start talking to them about monetary policy. They'll cut you a wide berth. Believe me, believe me. But the reason it's so important is this. You can get taxes right, you can get regulations right, you can get spending right, you can get the Constitution right and the division of powers, 10th Amendment again, you can get all of that right. But if you don't get the money right, you will be in trouble. Why? Because ask yourselves, how do we make progress in this world? We do it by interacting with each other, transactions with each other, buying and selling with each other, selling your labor, do it every day, billions of times a day, transactions. Money makes doing those transactions easier. You know, back in the old days, we had barter, which was very inefficient. You know, if I sold an ad in Forbes 3,000 years ago, how to get paid? Perhaps with a herd of goats. Let's say I'm being a little facetious here. Let's say I wanted to get some iPads for a writer, so I have to go to the Apple store with a herd of goats. Store owner says he doesn't want goats, he wants sheep. So then I have to figure out how to swap the goats for sheep. Maybe I have to hire a sheep herder to make sure the wolves don't eat the sheep. Sheep herder wants wine. I've got red wine, he wants white wine. Very, very inefficient. Money was invented in the marketplace to make these transactions with each other infinitely easier. So imagine if we had barter today. Imagine trying to deposit a cow into an ATM or withdrawing a tractor or a truck. Just doesn't work. So money is like a claim check. A claim check on products and services. You know, you go to a restaurant sometimes, you check your coat, you get a coat check. Coat check has no intrinsic value. Money has no intrinsic value. It's just a piece of paper, lips on a computer, token coins. No intrinsic value. But like that coat check, it represents a claim on products and services. And it's trust. It's based on trust. And one of the reasons why we have the social divisions today, John Maynard Keynes talked about this almost 100 years ago. He said, not one in a million will realize what's going on. When you have the kind of volatile currency you have today, it erodes social trust. He said, not one in a million will understand the process. That's how we interact most of the time, through the medium of money. If that is untrustworthy, it corrodes everything else. Research has shown that countries that have inherently unstable currencies over a period of time have higher crime rates than countries that have stable currencies. So it's not just monetary policy and quantitative easing and junk like that. This profoundly gets important how we interact with each other. So in terms of what the Federal Reserve and others are doing, just to make this quick, is they're practicing what you might call the coat check theory of economics. I mentioned going to a restaurant and checking your coat. What if a restaurant owner came to you and said, I got a great idea. If we create more coat checks, that'll stimulate the production of more coats. That'll mean more customers in my restaurant. You tell the poor guy, you have it absolutely backwards. Well, the same is true of money. It has no inherent value. It comes from you, what you've already produced in the marketplace, whether it's offering your labor, product, service. It's like that claim check. So the idea that government can create resources out of thin air, that's why counterfeiting is illegal. It's a form of stealing. When the government does it, they call it quantitative easing. So when you have this volatile dollar, it's like a clock that's either too fast or too slow. It doesn't work. Money works best when it has a fixed value. Just as, you know, clocks have 60 minutes an hour, foot, 12 inches. When you buy a gallon of gasoline, the size of the gallon doesn't change each day. You figure it's the same gallon. You buy a pound of cheese, you assume it's 16 ounces. That doesn't float. Imagine if the Federal Reserve was in charge of the Time Bureau, decided to float the clock. It's 60 minutes an hour one day, 48 minutes the next, 96 minutes the day after. Life would be chaotic. Imagine baking a cake. Just bake the batter 30 minutes. You have to figure, is that nominal minutes? Inflation-adjusted minutes? Is it an Ohio minute, a Jersey minute, a New York minute, a Mexican minute? Be chaotic, but that's what they've done. Investing is inherently risky enough. You may not get a payback 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, drugs 10 years. So it gets even more risky if you don't know whether you're going to get paid back with a 100-cent dollar, 10-cent dollar, $1.20. One critical reason why in the last 15 years business investment in this country has sucked. Because investing, productive investing, is about investing in the things today unseen. When somebody asks me, should I invest in silver or something like that, I know we have a problem. That's investing, or art. That's investing in thing that's already here. Doesn't do anything, expanding inventories, starting a new business, or anything. So the things unseen, that's what's so corrosive. We don't see what we lost. We don't see what we lost. So, in terms of what the Fed should be doing, for starters, is stop mucking around with the dollar. Stop mucking around with it. Start running down your bloated portfolio. The Fed, in effect, has seized $4 trillion of assets from this economy by what they've done to expand their portfolio. And what that's done, we explain it in the book, so I won't bore you with it here. What that's done is it deformed the credit markets, like price controls. You understand rent controls deform markets. New York City is a living example of it. Oh, I'm going to send my kid to Manhattan. We're going to room with 10 other people. Costs $50,000 a month to rent an apartment. Rent control, thank you very much. Rent stabilization, thank you very much. Deforms markets. Controlling interest rates deforms markets. No different. So leave interest rates alone. Right now they have a zero interest rate policy, or near zero interest rate policy. Mine makes it sound like credit is free. No, it isn't. It's like the old Soviet Union where the saying was, the health care is free, but you can't get any. If you're a small or new business, getting reliable lines of access to credit at an affordable cost, very difficult. Far more difficult than it was 6 or 7 years ago. These are the job creators. They can't get money the way they used to, credit the way they used to. That's why you have a punk labor market, miserable labor force participation rates. So what you've done, I'll just give you one statistic. It's almost over. We're almost over this. Stay awake. One statistic. In the last 5 years, credit to government has grown 37%. Credit to corporations, 32%. Credit to small businesses and households, 6%. And this, the recovery is terrible, terrible. They've deformed the markets. If you're a banker, as you well know, regulators are now in a hyper-regulatory mode. You lend to the government, no problem. You buy federally guaranteed mortgage-backed security, no problem. You lend to the laundromat, you better paper that 6 ways to Sunday, which inhibits lending. And they get no feedback from it because, oh, it's such a complicated subject. It isn't. Money, like a claim check, works best when it has a fixed value. And that just to show how crazy I am, I think in the next few years, what we're going to do to stabilize the dollar is we're going to go to a gold standard. And you say, oh my God, Forbes, do you think you're going to have gold coins? Are you some survivalist? Or, cans on a hill, machine gun? No. In this case, this is what they don't want you to understand. Gold is like a ruler, 12 inches in a foot. That doesn't inhibit the size of a building you might wish to construct. It just means the foot remains fixed length, so you can do it. Money has a fixed value. And you see the dollar price of gold fluctuate? That's not gold fluctuating in value, that's the dollar fluctuating in value. People's perceptions about its present worth and future worth. We did it for 180 years, from the time of George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, thank you very much, right to the 1970s. It worked. Even though that 180-year period included a civil war, Great Depression, 2 world wars, numerous political crises, the average growth rate during that 180-year period was substantially higher than it has been since. If we'd maintained that 180-year average in the last 40 years, our economy today, this is what happens with compounding, would be 50% larger, $8 trillion larger. Imagine if incomes were 50% higher today, how much better life would be. So we're not there yet. A lot of intellectual work to do on that. But in the meantime, tell the Fed, leave alone interest rates. You don't know what the price of money is any more than you know what the price of a Big Mac should be. Let lender and borrower determine that. Let consumers and the providers determine that.